talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. The curtain rises and the players come out. Webs of lies spinning from their mouths. Start looking, listen for a little while. Pay no attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady drip. I promise to leave you a little bit. I'll be back for another drink tomorrow. I love the taste of your terror and your sorrow. It's never enough. Program reality, double thing duality, a boot upon the face of all mankind. Our numbers up and the dead for the time. Go along to get along. Hypnotized by the siren song. The flames are empty and the crypts are cracking open. The horde's upon you and you stand there frozen, waiting for the word. Stand in line and wait your turn. Don't follow the strings to find out who is pulling. Just drink your poison, keep on laughing and drooling, eating your own flesh. The master always knows what's best.
Well, we'll let Dustin finish his bass solo that time there. Hello and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. It is Wednesday, August the 31st, 2022. We're so glad to have you with us here. Tim's here with me on Skype. What happened to his camera there? Oh, there it is. He's with us. So glad you could join us. And we're going to get into some news stories tonight. So a lot of local news stories, and one kind of more, I guess, regional news stories. And then we got one national. And then I got a thread I want to read you before we get back into smart poles and smart cities to get into our 1 year anniversary of starting the show, as we went into on Sunday. If you didn't join us, it was just me trying to talk for about 30 minutes. I did have the COVID for those who were asking. But like I said, it was like a couple of years ago, I would have said, man, I've got the flu, I've got a virus, I'm under the weather. Kept me down for several days. Maybe I feel pretty bad, but, nothing ever like scary or life-threatening or anything. Hey, Dalton. Dalton says, what's up? Remember the Budweiser Frogs, how they were all the rage there for a while around 2001, I guess it was?
I do remember the Budweiser Frogs, and I remember the Budweiser Frogs to the point because I was still in the Pentecostal church that I was in at the time, and they thought the Budweiser Frogs were such demonic marketing that they rewrote the script for Heaven's Gates and Hell's Flames to include the Budweiser Frogs.
No shit.
Just for our particular one.
Wow. I mean, I got to say, I get where they're coming from, though. But you got a plague of frogs right there with those damn things. They were everywhere. Gas the frogs, Dalton says. Yeah, poor frogs. Yeah, it was pretty wild.
4Channel probably think you're coming after them.
Yeah, probably. They those things were everywhere though, and like you had some people who saw the commercials and felt like they needed to imitate the commercials at every chance. So I remember I worked with this one guy, Sam. He used to. He was a self-described white man, as he was half Samoan and half white. And he loved to do the Budweiser Frogs, and he'd stick his tongue out at you every time he saw you, and he did this for about a year before it finally fell out of favor. I guess he finally had some friends who let him know that it was pretty annoying. But anyway, I could see why your church got that, because that marketing was somebody is going to hell for that. I'm pretty sure. How was your week, Tim?
I'm not real sure, but on the YouTube thing over here on my desktop, I'm just a part of my head. And I don't know if I need to adjust something on my end to
Let
make
me
that not
let me
look
check
that
it
way.
out. Yeah, for some reason, OBS has done this lovely thing where it has changed my settings for me again. See, that's what I was telling you. That's the problem I have with the audio, is I'll leave everything the same, and then I'll come back and all the settings will be as they were, but not working the same way that they were. So there, now you're all set there. That should be better. Um, can you hear yourself on the YouTube? Everybody hear Tim?
Beep, bop, 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 ba-doop, boop. That was my little example there to see if I was
I
speaking.
think it worked.
Can you hear yourself? Everybody hear Tim? Let's see.
Yep, we're good.
Alright.
Doing things on the fly here,
Alright.
folks. We don't have a multi-million-dollar production crew. We're small
Yet.
timing it so far, but like I've said, we are part of the new media. I mean, the whole reason that people go on to YouTube is, and this really aggravates me. I was talking about it the other day. When you go on YouTube now, you see, if you're not signed in or anything, you see ABC News, CBS News, Reuters, blah, 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 all these mainstream sources. That this is the whole reason we're on YouTube, folks, is to get away from this, because the mainstream has basically been propaganda arms for the establishment for so long. Everybody's starting to realize this, so they're coming to YouTube to find content creators who are making content that does not come from that, and they don't want to see ABC News, CBS News, and that's the reason they got rid of the dislike button. A lot of people thought it was because of Joe Biden, and they didn't want people to know how unpopular Joe Biden is. But you go outside and you see how unpopular Joe Biden is. I mean, you've even got, I mean, people left, right, and center are voting are against Joe Biden, and he's got terrible approval ratings. Of course, they say they are coming back up, but ultimately, I don't think it was to keep people from finding out Joe Biden was unpopular. It's to keep people from seeing how unpopular the news media is to the rest of the people, right? So they say that, oh, they got rid of the dislike button on YouTube because they don't want to hurt content creators' feelings, but I can still see when you dislike my video. The only person who can is somebody else watching it who pulls it up. So one, like it lets you, it used to be a way to find out if somebody knows what in the hell they're talking about. Like if there's somebody working on a car and he tells you to do something stupid, you could tell by a lot of dislikes on that video, a high dislike to like ratio, that that's probably something you might not somebody you want to listen to, or at least you want to read the comments and watch the video and reevaluate whether or not you want to take their advice on whatever project it is they're showing you how to do. But now there's no visible dislike button, so you can't tell if somebody has had a lot of dislikes. So that one, it makes it easy to take bad advice on the YouTube, but for two, it also keeps you from seeing how unpopular CNN, ABC News, all these different video sources that have wormed their way into the front of YouTube by paying them off, because they're all owned by the same companies that we've talked about before, you know, with your BlackRocks and your State Streets and your Vanguards and all this. All these people have money in the same places, so they're putting money into YouTube to make sure you see their content, and they don't want people to see their downloads or their downvotes and take them as an unreliable source, which they are. And Brian Stelter of the show Reliable Sources, that show was canceled by CNN this week, and there's a lot of word that they're getting rid of a lot of their primetime talent, and maybe going back to news. I don't know. Do what?
I mean, like, they've had like a pretty good turnover rate at a lot of these news companies, and I really find it hard to believe that they're suddenly going to either start telling the truth or pull themselves further. I don't know, not even like further right, just less up the ass of the current administration. Like, do you remember back in the day, people would really clown on Fox News for some pretty clownish stuff. Like, I remember they would use like, you could like probably Google Fox News examples of bar graphs and stuff. They're all the earlier examples from back in the Bush administration were ridiculous, where they would even have like the crests of the graph labeled as lower than the troughs, or just have like real generic bar graphs that really just, I mean, like obviously trying to guide people's opinions. And I just think it's really funny that the same people that were calling Fox News Fox with the FAUX, they call it
Faux
faux
news.
news or whatever. I mean, but they scoop up the same stuff. I'm not even saying Fox is doing better now. I'm just saying it's pretty obvious from a third party perspective that CNN's probably as bad as any. Well, probably MSNBC, if you can probably think of any of them worse. But I mean, like, how do you sit there and say that Fox is the corporate mouthpiece for the president, and then you watch CNN?
Yeah, exactly. Well, CNN had the reputation for the longest time of being right down the middle, you know. But I think they kind of took the mask off when Trump was elected, because Jeff Zucker was in charge of it, and he really, I mean, he made it no bones about it. This is, you know, an anti-Trump network, and that's fine, whatever. But it got rid of a lot of their credibility as the people in the middle, you know, who are the reliable source, or who can be, you know, counted on to keep things balanced. You know, Fox always said they're fair and balanced, but it was obvious that they leaned to one side, just like in MSNBC. And then CNN was kind of right in the middle there, at least in a lot of people's minds. Ultimately, they were all right for the establishment, but the CNN did kind of keep the middle ground politically. Brandon Hicks, nice to see you tonight, buddy. He says he's been watching for a while, and he says we hit it every time. And thank you a lot. We appreciate you being with us. Spill the Tea agrees and says she's never watched lamestream news. Yeah, that's a good thing. I could kind of tell that from you, Spill, from your videos that I've watched and from your comments on the show. You know, you form an independent perspective, and I know, Brandon, you've always been like that too. So it's good. It's good to have people like that out there, and we're glad to have you in our audience. And of course, the point I'm getting around to is, and I think you were leading on to this, Tim, that CNN rebranding and getting rid of you know, Brian Stelter, Don Lemon, whoever. I don't think that means they're suddenly going to start telling the truth. I think that means they want a new face and a new, what do you call it? I don't know. Just basically a new model for doing what they've been doing.
Kind of like I remember when I was in. For anybody who doesn't know me too well, I was in college for a really long time, for aimlessly, for no reason, like a lot of millennials were. And so I was in college. I was in college when Obama was elected, and I was in college when Trump was elected. So I got to see the university on both levels. But I do remember when Obama first was coming into office, I guess, so to speak, you could watch how the parties were kind of rebranding themselves. Like, I remember watching that particular what they call it, the big convention, I guess, the Republican and Democrat conventions, the contrast of how everything that in the Republicans was real straight lined. It looked like the Greek buildings. There wasn't any, everything was very conservative. And then when Obama came out, everything was very smooth and wavy, and they were using colors that weren't necessarily party colors. And I think that was one of the reasons people kind of went into Obama, is because at that point, you know, that was a good time for the Democrats to really change looks. And I think now would be a good time for them to do it again. It's just, I don't really know how in the world you rebrand yourself after. I mean, like I always say, I really do kind of consider myself the guy who stands on top of it and looks down, or even up, whichever position you want to put me in, at the sides that are kind of going at it. And it really does look like a lot of the lefty ones are as far down. I don't know. Can you go much lower than literally no one even taking you seriously? Like,
I mean, yeah, I don't guess you can as far as image. No, it's pretty hard to do worse than not just incompetent, but impotent. And I think that's the image that Biden does put off. But I think that we got to recognize, though, that pen still has power and that policy still has power. So,
I wasn't talking about Biden.
Well, okay.
Not just mainstream media in general. Like, I'm not even saying I guess for anybody who thinks I'm taking up for Fox, I don't trust Fox either. I'm just saying, in the current state of mainstream media in the position that it's in, I don't trust any of them. But MSNBC and CNN are on a level that are you know. It's funny when you watch them now, sometimes, but that's all I say. I wasn't talking about Biden. I was talking about, like, how do you recover? I guess, like, maybe that's a topic we can discuss one night. How do in the age of the internet, where it's not like growing up as kids, I'm sure you knew that some of the adults watched Fox, or and then you knew some of the adults watched CNN, and that's not the case anymore. Like the internet kind of opened Pandora's box on the idea that the parties were kind of bought and sold. And I'm just wondering, how do you repair the media, or is the media effectively dead? Is it really going to be a couple of hayseeds like us talking about the news every week? Is that really the future of the
Well,
news?
when I was a kid, there wasn't really much interest among parents of me or my friends in anything other than watching the nightly news, and that would be CBS or NBC, and those were pretty much seen as beyond reproach, basically, that they're just the facts. And remember Jimmy was telling us when he was a kid, Walter Cronkite, that was the man. But it's just like, no, you weren't really, you had no reason to think that Walter Cronkite was anything other than giving you the facts. Just like we didn't really have any reason to think that Dan Rather was giving us anything other than the facts. But then it turned out, I'm not taking up for George W. Bush, but Dan Rather told a big ass lie about George W. Bush, and then Brian Williams talked about getting shot at from a helicopter that never happened, and we started to see the credibility fall off of these guys, and we started realizing that
Yeah, but didn't Hillary Clinton? She said she got shot at coming out of some country
Yeah.
too. So I mean, they're awful. Crap,
Yeah,
man.
but that's my point. Is now we know that they're full of crap. Like, you had no reason to think that they were full of crap when we were kids or when Jimmy was kids, because that veil hadn't been lifted yet. But it's been lifted with the internet, and that's why I think guys like us reading the news, a couple of hayseed hicks, are the future of the internet. But it's not just us, and it's not that I'm have delusions of grandeur or have such an ego to think that suddenly everybody in the world's going to start watching the Iron Mountain Hour. But what I am saying is that there are shows like this popping up all over the country, popping up like this all over the world, and they're all offering unique perspectives. And that's what is so beautiful and unique about humanity, is the fact that we're able to do that. And we've been led so far along, so far astray by this box that's had control over our lives, that was the television, and to a degree is still affecting us. The internet's being used in much the same way, but you have a lot better means to escape from the thought prison that we've been put in our whole lives through the internet than you did when you're just getting your information through basically 3 approved sources.
I have a theory, because I know you had some stories you wanted to touch, but I have a theory that I would like to propose, and if we have to bring it up at some other time on another show, we can discuss it then. But the internet's not going anywhere, right? The cat's out of the bag. They can't take the internet back and really censor it, because if they censor it, it kind of ruins it. People just find a way around it, and it is censored on a level anyway. But my point being, you can't take the internet back.
Can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Yeah. And so I had this thought. I've been going on this big deep dive, and I remember I sent you that video link to that. I don't even want to say his name, because I hope, in case he's like
The last one that you sent me, yeah.
Yeah. Like some of the terminology that dude was using. Guys like that, there are so many of them, and
Give our audience a little bit of an idea about what you're talking about. Yeah, you don't have to get specific.
Okay, I guess I'll kind of cut more to the chase then, because it would be vague for me to try to describe this guy. It's like my theory is, since you can't put the genie back in the bottle, can you make the genie so confusing that lay people can't use it? So it's the idea that if people are going to spend hours on YouTube researching the government to figure out what the government did wrong, well, we're going to put 500,000 hours of video on there of crazy stuff that doesn't make any sense. So these people go so bat crap crazy from point A to point B that by the time they get to their end of their journey, they look like the wild-eyed crazy person that nobody would trust, because they're talking about lizard people
And flat Earth and hollow, yeah.
Project themes and Swiss cheese Earth and I don't know, maybe all that's real. I don't know. It's just really unlikely that every single conspiracy theory is real. And when you know what I'm saying? Does that make any sense? Like, because you can empower yourself with a lot of knowledge on the internet. You can also drive yourself crazy if you don't have
It takes
the power of
discernment, absolutely.
Madness.
Yep.
That's my idea. So when I sent that guy to you, you're like, oh Lord, there's a lot of those guys out there, and like you wouldn't be that way if you hadn't had the internet.
Yeah.
Like that's
But I think at the same
that's
time,
not
like, I think we all kind of go through a little bit of a phase like that when we start learning that so many of the things that we've learned were lies, because it's kind of like one of those, like, well, if they would lie about 9/11, what else is not true? You know, and then you're kind of, and then all this stuff comes flowing in, and like your head's blown open. And first, you know, it might seem more feasible, but you do have to learn discernment, and that's, you know, something that only comes with time and experience.
Okay, well, I guess I'll give the extreme example of it so I can put it into a case. And if one of you guys out there want to talk about it, I would love to have a chat with one of you fellers. It would be what, like the extreme end of like a sovereign citizen. Are you familiar with those?
Yes.
Well, he would be on the extreme end of it. Because like normal, like I hate to even say it derogatively, but like just a run of the mill sovereign citizen is the one that thinks the government has too much power, and in my opinion, they interpret law incorrectly and it gets them in trouble. And then you have the ones that are on the extreme end where they have determined that the entire universe is completely different, because it's almost really uncommon to find the ones that go out looking to fight police over a speeding ticket. It's really uncommon for those guys to not also slip into like a flat earth reference, or slip into, like, they really like to say Jesus is my only attorney, or that I need, or something like it. It sounds, I'm sure it sounds good to them and their group, but they don't understand how insane they sound to the 99% of the population that doesn't understand the giant ball of conspiracies they ate to get to where they're at. And I don't know, I can't help but think maybe their minds got effed with. You know, maybe this is like I said, Tower of Babel. Let's confuse their language. If they've got the genie, let's make the genie super confusing.
I take your point. I think you'd make a very good one. Let's move on. We got a chat here from Brandon. Says, if I ever get out of the news, we'll do an interview on your show. I would love that. And it's so nice to have you with us either way, Ben. And we appreciate your comments, Brandon. Let's see here. I'm going to start in from WJHL. And this is Tennessee budget, $500 million for high school, middle school programs to expand CTE programs. High schools across Tennessee are expected to get $1 million each to fund programs in career and technical education. It's a continued effort by Governor Bill Lee to emphasize workforce development in middle and high schools with hands-on learning in skilled trades. Now, you know how I feel about the whole school thing. I'm for more privatized and funding following the individual students. But I think in the event that if we're going to keep things in Tennessee, if the state is still going to run education, this is kind of a step in the right direction where we are expanding access to trades and jobs, and giving, not recognizing not every kid needs to go to university for 4 years, and giving people, recognizing that a lot of us I work in the trades, and there's good money to be made in the trades. You have to have a certain amount of preparation for that, though, and schools have been lacking in that, so it's good to see that they are heading in that direction here, at least in Tennessee. Lee said,
I would say the biggest thing on school things is at least not be predatory about them. Like, don't go scouting kids trying to get them to go to college if they've not even thought
Right.
about it. Because that is like really wild to the way that happened. Well, probably all the way to the 80s
Yeah.
and the 90s and early 2000s. It's still going on now.
Well, I know you talked about going back to school kind of aimlessly. I ended up going to school when I went to school in 2001. Well, 2000 I started at UTSU, and I had been in the health occupations students programs, and I had done clinicals through the health services program there, and they had plenty of infrastructure for that, for getting you into health services. But there was very little. I mean, yeah, they had like an auto body shop and stuff like that. But as far as actually helping you get out there and finding a pathway directly from school into work, that wasn't really out there. But when I got into this health program, they had a shortage of physical therapists. And so what they did was somebody went around to guidance counselors all over the country and said, hey, look, we've got a shortage of physical therapists. So all these guidance counselors all over the country started recruiting kids to go into physical therapy programs. And then what's the next thing you had? You had the market oversaturated with kids in the physical therapy program. And when I started, you could actually work as a physical therapist with a bachelor's degree back in the late 90s. Now, and then shortly after this, when I was in school, it went up to master's, and pretty much now you have to have a doctorate. You have to be a doctor of physical therapy to actually have your own office and operate as a physical therapist, not work, for somebody else. But that to me is all a product of basically sending kids through school for something that they don't need, and then halfway through it, I realized that this was not going to be the path for me, and I was really pushed in that direction. And of course, I had my own. I had to make make the choices and to sign everything. But at the same time, it's like I felt a lot of pressure as first of all somebody who I had been identified for making good grades, and I was always trying to be that smart kid or whatever, and do what was expected of me because I was the smart kid. But that led me going down the wrong path really for me. And I'm glad to see that there's stuff, even though, I did make good grades at school, that didn't need necessarily that I wanted to be a scholar or that I wanted to be a doctor. I'm somebody who needs to work with my hands, and I need to use my mind too. But I like that they are having more stuff like that for kids who are going to be, who feel like they're going to be better served by going into a trade of some sort. And let's see, we got this from WCYB. The first elected female mayor in Carter County sworn in. That's Patty Woodby there next to Mike Fraley, who won the local elections here in Carter County. Now, isn't it so nice that we're elected a female mayor? What really matters to me is what you do with it, though. And she continued the lockdown stuff even after, the masking of the kids and all that. That's what really matters to me. Is even after we found out that wasn't helpful and that it was being harmful, which you're allowed to say on YouTube, by the way. Chalking up another one for us conspiracy theorists, or whatever the hell you want to call us, guys who was telling you that this was not the way to do this from the beginning. And I went down to the school board here a couple times in Carter County, and they ignored everything I said. I don't know if they ignored everything I said, but they kept doing what they were doing. And turns out that old dumb Cliff here was actually, they'll say, oh, you were accidentally right. But the fact is I had data to back it up or I wouldn't have gone down there. But even after the data was in, which they could have looked up too, they did not look it up. They did not use it. They decided to keep going with whatever the CDC said. And now all that stuff has been shown that it did not make a difference. They're reversing all these policies. They're also saying that vaccinated and unvaccinated people should be treated the same, shouldn't be denied entry due to vaccination status or anything like that. But you still got the Coast Guard kicking people out. You still got the Marines trying to kick people out of the military for it. So it's kind of crazy, man. But point is, yay, we got a female mayor. It's going to be a pretty lady stomping on our face. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully she'll do a good job. I know everybody was scared at the time, but the reason I don't cut these people a lot of slack is because if I was able to find this information, they should have been able to find it, and they should have been taking it serious enough to look for it if you're in a position of authority. But I do hope that this crop, Mayor Patty Woodby was, I should say she became the mayor after the elected mayor died, and she was the deputy, and she became mayor, and she just won her first election. I guess everybody liked what she did, but Sheriff Fraley was also elected. I actually spoke to him before he got elected, and I have high hopes for that, so we'll see how that goes. Over here in Johnson City, they got the county commission is voting on a new city flag design. I didn't even know they had a city flag. Did you?
I assumed they did, but I couldn't tell you what it is.
I guess this is it with the 3 stars here. It was adopted back in 1964. But if you're going to have a flag, what the hell's wrong with that?
Oh, that's the current
I
one?
guess.
Well, 3 stars for Tennessee, and you got your pyramid reference. What's wrong with that?
And it looks like a gold road with green on the sides, economics, agriculture, 3 stars for Tennessee, and then you got your pyramid, so you got your little Illuminati symbolism there, and your 3 stars. So, but yeah, they're saying that it builds national and local pride and is important for display at municipal facilities and civic functions. Well, I figured they'd just fly the pride flag. Johnson
Now,
City was always kind of famous for being the small, the kind of the gay capital of the area. Long time ago when I was a kid, they used to talk about it that way. So that's not something new that Johnson City's had that reputation. They said, there was a lot of high gay population there.
okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what they said. Highest per capita for anywhere other than San Francisco is what they used to say. I'm not sure if that's correct or not, but that's what I always heard growing up. But
I think that it was the highest per capita simply like just because the population, especially back in like
yeah,
'95, Johnson City was nowhere like Philadelphia. But per capita, I don't know, maybe it had a lot to do with like people trying to get away and go to school because they had to have, I don't know,
oh, that's
just a
that's the
theory.
new flag that I just showed you
But,
there. I thought they were still
oh,
looking for a design. So here's the old flag. I gotta say the new one's better.
where's the old one?
Right here, I'm putting it on the screen now.
Okay. Give me a second. No, that's the
Yeah, it's
old
not
one.
letting me blow it up.
I can see it on mine. It's got a genie lamp.
It
on
sure
top
does. It has
of
a
it.
genie lamp. It has a catechus and has 2 gears. So that's pretty interesting. 1869.
The hell's that? What the hell's that? What's you know what I'm saying?
Yep. How appropriate that we get into the genie lamp there. Yep. And then there's the new one. They've kept it pretty basic. I don't have a problem with the new one, but I don't know. The old one's kind of neat too.
What the hell they got? I mean, like, is that an oil
Yeah,
lamp?
I guess that's what it is.
What?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
I guess because of commerce. It
yeah.
was, little Chicago back in the day. They had a railroad going
Well, they had
through it.
I guess they had. Did they have the medical school back then, or was that a new thing? Well, they got the gears of industry. They've got the
I want to
hermetic.
say they did have medical school because if you go to the university, if you go to you have to fact check me on this one. I'm just wanting to say, if you go to the opposite side of where the mini dome is at ETSU, and you go to the VA campus, there's the Gatton College of Pharmacy on the other side of the VA, and those buildings look really
Yeah.
old. And I'm pretty sure that was the original medical school that they refurbished to put the College of Pharmacy
Okay.
in. But I'm pretty sure that medical school's been there since like I don't know, early 1900s is what
So
I
I'm
would
gonna
guess.
have to track down Professor Tommy Lee because I got to ask him about this. I came across a story about the Mountain Home, the Veterans Administration up there, that I'm unable to find on the internet. But when I was researching Al Capone, I came across it years, probably about a year ago, doing the research for Al Capone on this show, and I came across a story about an undercover person who went into Mountain Home back after it was the National Soldiers and Sailors Home, and I can't remember if it was after World War I or II, but basically the place was the GIs that came back and lived there after the war had turned it into basically a den of iniquity with prostitution and drug running and gambling and numbers and all kinds of crazy stuff. But I'm going to reach out to Mr. Lee, Professor Lee, and see if I can find out where I came across that story because I do want to do that for this show. But I thought that was interesting. Speaking of older buildings, because those old VA buildings have been around there for a while now too. But
The College of Medicine was 1974.
oh,
That's
okay.
wrong.
Well, I don't know what the catechist would be on there then. But let's look at this next story. This is also from WCYB. We've got Dolly Parton launches a line of pet apparel, toys to help Tennessee animal rescue. So Tim's favorite war maiden is making her way back into the news. Or is Brittany your favorite? Now she's back with a Tiny Dancer cover with Elton John. So is Britney Spears has redone Tiny Dancer with Elton John. So yeah, I think they're doing it as a duet. I've not heard it, but that but that would be right up there with what you were saying before. Like we'll see a lot of gals like Brittany and Dolly right before war. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that. But anyway, this is Doggy Parton. We kind of never stop seeing Dolly Parton. She's calling the place Doggy Parton. And it's in partnership with Sports Pet Design and has a little bit of Dolly flair like blue jean denim jackets, cowgirl dresses, pearl collars, and more for your pooch. And it helps out Willoughby Farms, which is a nonprofit animal rescue there in Old Hickory, Tennessee. I guess that's named after Andrew Jackson. I'm surprised they haven't changed the name yet.
Well, yeah.
Puppy Love was my very first record. I did not know that. Dolly's first record was Puppy Love.
Oh, wasn't
About
it?
that.
We're announcing all this around the same time of International Dog Day.
That's right. In the dog days of summer.
Sirius is in right now.
All right. Well,
We get a lot of people in
we've
there.
already talked about pyramids, but speaking of pyramids, let's go out to Memphis, where on Interstate 55 there was this is Alfredo sauce spilled all over the highway here. Had a truck accident.
God,
That's a lot of damn Alfredo sauce. Mamma
Man.
mia, is that what you say? Um,
you make it smell.
yeah, yeah, man. That's a cream sauce. That's definitely not smelling so good after being out in that hot sun. So let's see how much are we looking here? Oh man.
Alfredo sauce, is that like some kind of government biohazard that's spilled? Because I don't see, like, where's the pallets that all the cream sauce was stacked on and stuff? It looks just like gallons of cream
Well,
sauce.
if you look, there's all kinds of debris in the stuff. So that might be there's pallets there. There's probably glass in there that you can't see.
I'm gonna guess there's gonna be Ninja Turtles popping out of that part of the world.
Let me move your face out of the way here on the screen so you can see a little better, Tim. But if you look right here, you can see the pallets, and then there's busted up chunks of glass and wood everywhere. So
Give me a
yeah,
second.
it's there.
So my big ass head.
I had to move you. I had you covering it the last time I showed the video.
Pallets. I see the pallet. What happened to the semi? Why is it all?
I'm
Crazy
guessing
destroyed.
something slammed into the side of it. I don't know. I didn't find this from a news report. This is just something I came across on Twitter, so I'm not really sure any of the details on it.
I'm gonna have to forensically pick this apart. I think there's See, this is the kind of stupid story that for some reason I want to get hung on. I know the whole world is trying to figure out what the World Economic Forum's doing or how they're going to. I see a semi truck that is destroyed on the front, and yet for some reason it is further along than the exploded Alfredo sauce that doesn't have as much debris as I think it should have. I'm calling foul play. That's all I'm saying. Something's
Well, we go down to Mexico, and this is in Laredo, Texas. A shipment of baby wipes coming over the U.S.-Mexico border turned out to be something quite different and more expensive. $11.8 million of cocaine. The Customs and Border Patrol stopped a trailer that was supposed to be hauling a shipment of baby wipes on Friday at the Columbia Solidarity Bridge. Hey, I guarantee you, if this truck busted and got all over the road, they'd have a lot of help cleaning it up.
You know, the whole interstate would just be high for weeks, blowing the.
Can you imagine? Jeez. Oh, after a secondary inspection, the agents discovered 1,935 packages containing 1,533 pounds of cocaine inside a 2016 Staunton trailer that held baby wipes on its manifest. The cocaine has an estimated street value of over $11.8 million. That's probably just the straight value of the drug, man. 1,500 pounds. I don't know how much. What is that?
I don't know. I only heard from I think it was a Vice article. Ugh, I know quoting them, but I'm wanting to say they said that it took an acre of whatever you make cocaine out of, poppy, to make a kilo. And I don't know if you could figure out how much is in a kilo, then you'll know how much that is. They said it takes an acre of poppy.
Well, it's 2.2 pounds approximately to make. So an acre of coca plants then to.
Crammed in. Yeah, poppy would be heroin,
Yeah.
wouldn't it? So yeah, they extract all the active ingredient out of the coca leaf, and then takes an acre, crammed into just that. And it's kind of like what they do with like a 5-pound brick of sugar cane, you know.
Refine the shit out of it, and sugar as they say, it's far more dangerous and destructive drug than cocaine. Well, think about it, you got a lot more sugar used out there. You don't have the stigma, and look what it's done to people. Look what people have done to themselves with refined sugar. Look at diabetes and heart disease and all this stuff that it comes from it. Let's look at.
If you read off,
Do what?
if you read off the symptoms of someone who's abusing sugar, and then someone who's abusing meth, the symptoms are pretty identical.
Except on the meth, you don't get overweight like you do from the sugar.
Well, with the sugar though, it still rots your
That's
teeth
true.
out.
It does.
Still makes you
Spill spez, yes, stinky slick stuff.
The diminishing returns are insatiable. So And the reason for that is that the uppers all really do hit the same receptors. I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily saying food is as damaging as meth, really, but I do think
That
long
can
term
be.
that stuff really just as damaging because it's like that slippery slope where it sneaks you in. You don't realize you're getting, slowly and slowly more diabetic.
Spill says sugar and coffee is in the drug book. Yeah, and another thing that you do that with is the aspartame. I had occasion to work with some folks, and when I was still in the medical and mental health field, who were on diabetic diets, and we were working with getting their diets planned out to where, because when I came in and started working with them, a lot of them were on like just eating lean cuisines and drinking diet drinks, and what I had found over the years is when somebody is on when they're diabetic and they're taking drinking constant aspartame, whether it be in diet soda or flavored water or whatever, this stuff, it doesn't hit your blood sugar immediately, but it has a cumulative effect on your blood sugar, and it like constantly raises it to where that's why you'll have somebody who is diabetic, and they'll be running constant 300 blood sugars, and all they drink is diet drinks. Is because that stuff is cumulative, and sugar is much the same way, but it will hit your blood. It'll hit your blood sugar immediately, and yeah, coffee. I don't know. I think there's a lot of back and forth on coffee. I don't feel like it's addictive. I drink coffee, but like where I haven't been going to work, I haven't been drinking any, and it's not like I haven't even thought about it really. It's just part of your routine. Aspartame is banned in Switzerland. Wow, I didn't know that, Stabil. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know much about sucralose, to be honest. I don't like to drink it either. I don't like any of that artificial sweetened stuff. If I'm going to drink sugar, I'd rather just have sugar and do it in moderation. But let's do,
I don't do sugar in moderation. I should though.
well, I don't always either, but I think that's better the way to do what?
I'm probably like 15% candida at this point.
From all the Dr. Enough.
Yeah, probably exclusively Dr.
But
Enough.
at least you're drinking pure cane sugar there.
Yeah. Unless they're getting it from somewhere else in the line.
I guess they could, but I like to think that Dr. Enough wouldn't do that. Let's read this thread here because it's about time to wrap it up. It's 10:43. I want to finish up and give you kind of a little bit of a primer, if you will, for our talk this Sunday when we're going to get into smart poles and smart cities and the WEF agenda. Then this is a thread from The Great Resist on Twitter, at The Great Resist. I'll put it on the screen here. This is the most terrifying WEF prediction. We have all heard about WEF's anti-freedom agenda, but there is one scary prediction in it that stands out more to me than any other that isn't talked about enough. It's called the Internet of Bodies, or the IOB. Let's investigate. A thread. First, I want to introduce Eleanor Powells, an expert in IOB connected to the WEF. She openly states this take is pervasive and will be in all industries, and most disturbingly, that we will be under assessment in every aspect of our lives. Now, we've seen this we've watched videos of, well, I hope you were able to hear them, of Yuval Noah Harari and Klaus Schwab telling us things like this. Let's get into what this actually means. On the tamer side, she says, this means everything you eat, who you date, and what you buy will be tracked. But the most disturbing of all this measurement goes all the way down to your genes and mental health. How do they measure that? This is where it gets scary. We are talking depression headsets, microchip implants, electronic pills, fertility measurement devices, artificial pancreases, even Bluetooth diapers. The Internet of Bodies is fusing us with technology in a way that means everything can be tracked. Let's show you this picture real quick.
That sound crazy though, just for filler. Like, doesn't that sound crazy? I mean, first of all, word vomit. I can't help but say, first of all, that Elon's helping us with that whole brain microchip nonsense. But Bluetooth diaper, doesn't that sound like? I mean, like, why? Doesn't that sound wasteful that you're going to take the time to put Bluetooth something you're going to throw away?
Absolutely.
And at the same time, you're going to tell us that we're going to have to eat bugs because we don't have enough stuff left, but we're going to put Bluetooth chips in diapers. Yeah. Did I go on my carp rant with you? Because if not, I have to get.
Get it out of your system.
All right. I don't believe the bug thing. I think it's a flex. You know what I'm saying? I was watching the video the other day about I can't remember the name, but I'll send you the video. It's interesting in its own. About there's a part of the Missouri, Mississippi, don't remember. My brain's fried for the night. Where they electrify a giant part of the river to keep the invasive carp from taking over the rest of the world, essentially, because carp are so invasive and they've taken over most of the Mississippi. Right. And like they have videos of of people driving their motorboats up this river and fish are just flying out because they get startled and the fish just fly out like fireworks shooting out in the sky. You know what I'm saying? Like just crazy looking the amount of fish that are flying out. And they're like, well, what are we gonna do with all these fish? Eat the fucking fish. I know carp don't taste good, but you're going to suggest to me that we're going to eat cricket sandwiches, and yet the Mississippi River is overflowing with a fish that might be a little gamey.
Yep. Hey, I hear carp are actually good if you cook them right. Spill the Tea says, my son took medicine with aspartame, caused some issues, asthma medications.
Aspartame in the medication? Huh.
Yeah, they actually put it in a lot. You got to really look. Like when I started giving my kids vitamins and stuff when my kids were younger, almost every vitamin has aspartame in it. There's like, say there's 10 vitamins on the shelves, 1 or 2 of them will have actual sugar or sucrose. And that's like that with adult vitamins too. You got to really watch that stuff.
Is it just to make them not taste poopy?
My whole thing is I'd rather them have a couple of grams of sugar than a couple of grams of aspartame. But yeah, let's get back into this real quick. I'll show you the picture again here. We got the cochlear implant, depression headset, augmented lens reality, contact lens, the wearable UAV monitor with pacemaker, electronic tattoo, microchip implant, smartphone with health apps, prosthetic, self-lacing shoes. All good stuff for a guy who, is missing a leg maybe. I don't know about the depression headset and the brain chip and stuff, but, stuff for...
It's called.
What's that?
It's called your work. It's like, well, to keep it short, it's like wearing a lobotomy.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear of Thorazine?
Oh, yeah.
What that is? They called it a lobotomy in a bottle. So you didn't have to be permanent. Because back in the day, for anybody that might not know, which by the way, I'm still hung up on this, the idea that the Mississippi River is overflowing with these giant edible fish and we're just not eating them. That's crazy. Why are we not feeding them to like the homeless? Get them up and go. Why are the homeless not gathered on the side of the Mississippi, scooping out vast amounts of fish?
Tim, you're trying to apply logic to an illogical world, brother.
It's so stupid, man. What was we talking about?
Well, let's get back into here over on the other side here. We got the Internet of Bodies. This is more your your enhancement thing rather than trying to being used therapeutically. You got your fertility measuring device, clothing with temperature monitor. You've just taken your electronic pill. You've got your tooth mounted sensor, your internet collected glasses with intraocular lens with camera, meditation headset, Bluetooth connected hearing aid, which I use the Bluetooth earbuds every day, smartwatch fitness tracker. Hey, you know what I did today? I was thinking about buying a smartwatch, and instead I went out and I bought an old Timex that I wanted ever since I was a kid. I never did get one, but the Timex Indiglo Expedition, I like it. But I resisted the smartwatch. That was my point. Is I really wanted this. I was thinking strongly about getting the smartwatch because I was thinking about some of the ways it might be convenient, especially with work and working with my hands. But I opted against it. Do what?
So I don't want to do the smartwatch.
My main thing is it comes down to I don't need to charge another. I've got enough shit to charge.
I don't need anything else taking my attention away from the world.
That too.
I'm already distracted by something that I have to pick up. I can only imagine, if I just had to tilt my wrist over, how distracted.
Well, I mean, I got the earbuds because when I'm at work, that way I can answer the phone without taking my phone out. Yeah. So I was kind of thinking of the smartwatch as an extension of that, but I'm just gonna go with regular watch. But let's go ahead and finish this thread here.
Well, on your graph thing that you were just now showing, I have to say the messing with people's brains to make them happier. That's actually very possible. It's
possible.
Is
that what we want though? You ever see the movie Equilibrium?
I've seen Equilibrium.
The THX 1138.
I think the Equilibrium is more like a almost like an exaggerated version of like the pill industry is what they're getting at. But like with actually altering the brain, like I mean, actually did quite a bit of behavioral neurology, and it's very possible most of your touch and stuff is tonotopically it's right across the top. It's just the idea that once upon a time you could scoop the front out by going in behind the eye and just getting rid of the prefrontal cortex, and all of a sudden they're essentially a happy moron. You know, that's essentially what a lobotomy
Didn't they do that to
does.
Allison
which
Kennedy or?
They did that to a Kennedy, yeah. It's irreversible, and it does. It makes you a happy, very
Rosemary
agreeable
Kennedy.
moron.
JFK's sister.
I know it was the daughter or the sister. I just don't remember what the name was. But essentially, I mean, the idea of like I don't know, like sometimes like maybe leave well enough alone.
Yeah.
You know, like your brain pretty. It's one thing to get like a botched boob job, or maybe your facelift got messed up. Can you imagine if you fucked your brain up?
One flew over the
You know,
cuckoo's nest.
Yeah, I just think we're getting into a dangerous territory when we start putting chips in brains. I just that really makes me that really makes my quest out into the woods a little want to be hastened.
I agree. Let's finish this thread from The Great Resist. What I want to know is why they want to know everything about us. What do they gain? Why is the WF claiming in their reports that it is now time for the Internet of Bodies? This is where a man you may very well know comes in, Klaus Schwab's right-hand man, Yuval Harari. We've mentioned him many times on the show. Yuval is an Israeli public intellectual praised for his beliefs by Obama, Zuckerberg, and Gates. You've probably seen him speaking at Davos. He is the biggest promoter of the Internet of Bodies. It is the foundation of his belief system, and it is borderline sadistic. And he describes it as, we'll see if it doesn't, then we'll just say it. Well, hell, I can't even hear it now.
Is the Internet of Bodies essentially referring to the idea that we become computers, so we are a part of the Internet, essentially?
Yes.
Okay, because I was really...
It's like the Internet of Things. You know, there's an internet runs through all the refrigerators and appliances and stuff, and it uses their hardware. It's basically, I've heard it described as we will be wetware for these.
We're not things. That's the whole point. It's no longer the Internet of Things. It's the Internet of People at that point, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
I see the idea of the possibilities that you could have, but I also see the crazy amount of atrocities that could come from hooking everybody up to a grid and making essentially a very hyper connected hive mind.
Let me see if...
What do you think about the idea that if we weren't so spread out as humans, maybe if we were a smaller group, maybe tribal, do you think at some point in time, maybe smaller groups of people could have had that hive mind psychic connection
absolutely.
with each other?
I think so. I think that's something we're trying to recreate using technology. She says albuterol syrup is what she was talking about, the medication, and it was stimulating to say the least. She says also good choice 100%. I'm not sure what she's talking about, but probably about giving the kids sugary vitamins rather than aspartame. But I'm going to try, Tim, if you'll refrain from speech for just a moment while I try to play her, and we'll see if this actually works. So I'm going to actually mute you just so we don't get that crazy feedback that I just got there. And hopefully that wasn't too loud for the audience. No, this looks like we're just going to have feedback no matter what. So, I don't know. I'm going to have to figure that out. Sorry about that, folks. But I'll, let's see. Noval Harari, he basically says the point of this in the video here I couldn't play for you. He says the point is to have biometric data on everybody and basically understand people better than they understand themselves. And it's a lot more jarring hearing Harari say it, but The Great Resist says, I hope that disturbed you to the core because it should. The Internet of Bodies is going to make us hackable by monitoring, tracking, and controlling every piece of information we have. The possibilities this gives people in power are near limitless. So what are these possibilities? Let me paint a picture. You live in North Korea, and you have a biometric implant. The great leader is making a speech, so you clap and smile. On the outside, you are a model citizen, but on the inside, they see your brain is showing you're very angry. The next day, you're in the gulag. I personally think this is one of the scariest WEF predictions for the future and isn't talked about enough. but there are so many more horrific ones that are coming. And if you would like to see just how scary they get, I have something for you. And it is, he says he made a video showing a few of the WWF's horrific predictions for 2030. It's like a must watch for anyone who wants to understand the foundation of what the WWF wants to achieve and paints a good picture of what life would look like. So I'm actually going to post this video in the description here. So as soon as we get done, if y'all want to, you can watch it. It's only 11 minutes long. I'll go ahead and I'll post that in there right now. And we're going to get finished up soon, but I wanted you to go ahead and have an idea of what we were going to get into and why I wanted to talk about smart poles and smart cities and why I think that's so important for us to understand the implications of, and that I think that the Internet of Bodies is a big part of the story of that what those implications may be. So I'm adding that to the description of the video right now, and here it is, saved in there. So when you get done watching us, go in the description of the video down below and watch this video. You know, it's a worst case scenario, but I think we have to be aware and awake to the worst case scenario, because once they get in your brain, like Tim said, you don't get a second chance. Once they're in your brain, it's pretty hard to break out of there. Anything to finish us up with, Tim? I'm going to read the rest of the chats here, and oh, you're still muted. Sorry. At least I can hear you. There we go. Now you're free and clear, Tim. Sorry about that.
I was gonna say I don't. How do I put this? They're either not. They either haven't learned from history that they're not doing that correctly. With if that's how they really plan on controlling people, with the, hey, we can see you're not happy with the leadership, so we'll get rid of you. Because I mean, how far have to play? They have the smallest population ever if that's the way they're going to do it.
No,
Like,
they don't get rid of
seems
you.
like
They
if
put you to work in the work camp, and they make the people whose brains will work right watch you.
Yeah, but eventually, if you do that, if you keep doing that, you create your own resistance until they overthrow
When
you.
does that happen in North Korea, though? I'm just saying. I see. I get your point, but
It hasn't happened yet, but it could happen everywhere else. Wouldn't happen if America wouldn't happen. America wouldn't exist if that had been overthrown.
Phil says, "Great show, guys. Good choice on the watch. Thank you."
Yeah, overthrowings happens all the time. Is my
Yeah.
point. My issue is, if you're going to take the time to hack people all the way down to the level of we know via Bluetooth what your brain's doing and stuff, just go ahead and take the ability and control them. Like, just make ants at that point. It would be my point.
I would say you're not telling them anything they haven't thought of, Tim. But yeah, I take your point, brother.
I think it'd be a lot easier. Well, in case the Google, I don't think it's going to go that far. I think it'd be a lot easier to get people to do things voluntarily.
I think that's what they hope
system.
to do. Yeah, like the Matrix.
System would work a whole lot easier than making.
And
them
that's
do
why I
it
think they want us
voluntarily,
in a Matrix metaverse type system, and that's what we'll get into next week. All right. Appreciate y'all in the chat. Appreciate you, Tim. We had a good talk this week, and missed having you guys around for Sunday, but we'll get back in the studio this Sunday and have a good chat, and tell all your friends to join us. Send the video around. Give us a like there, and let everybody know. Appreciate you. Good night, Spill. Night, everybody. Night, Tim.